Can you hear me?
Carol, this is Linda. I can hear you.
Well, I've got 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know people have things to do, and we'll try to keep it short. Um, And I'm taking attendance here because I need to have a list of people who served on as our advisory group, and that's kind of what I'm considering this. The plan tonight really is to and I'll be letting people in and writing their name down as we go, is to go through the plan, the continuity of learning plan, and to be sure that anybody who wants to have feedback can do so. So I'm going to bring that up quick, or at least my PowerPoint, and share that. I think I'm going to. It's been a while since I've had a Zoom meeting, so give me a second. And see if I can get that to screen share. And I'm on my own tonight. Mrs. Nolting is not here to help with the technology. So if it takes me a second, you're going to have to bear with me. But so the safe, can everybody see that? Carol, can you see that? Should say this PowerPoint. Okay, good.
This is Linda. I can see it.
And really the purpose of the meeting is first to provide a framework for the return of students to BR schools in a manner that's safe and maximizes learning, but also because we have to meet the requirements set forth by the American Rescue Act. And there are 12 parts of that American Rescue Act that we have to address. And I'll kind of go through them here quickly, and then maybe we'll have time where we could do a breakout session at the end and people can have a chance to provide some feedback. Prior to this, we did have a hold on here. We did have a survey go out, and I do have some of the results, and I've looked at them. Nothing surprising. I'll give you some quick data from what I've seen so far. We had 41 responses to the survey, 1 student, 34 parents, 9 staff members, and 1 representative of a tribe. So I thought we had pretty good response, better than I anticipated, considering it was summer. And in general, the number one concern that folks had was they wanted to make sure that the building was clean and disinfected. Whether we needed to make sure we had all the supplies we need, and if we needed to additional people to make that happen, then that was mentioned, that if we got to have more staff to clean, that's what they'd like to see. So I thought that was pretty positive, because I agree that having a well disinfected and safe building is a priority. So I have all that feedback from the surveys. There were some interesting comments. One person said, please be sure to give the kids the social skills from that they were robbed of last year. So, I mean, there were all kinds of different comments, and I appreciate everybody's point of view, because I'm sure there are people that, everybody feels bad for the kids that might have missed out on a prom or a regular graduation the previous year. And so we want to respect that, but I'm glad that the majority of folks come to an agreement that making sure that the building was clean for the kids was the number one priority. So I'll start off with the first area that has to be addressed by our plan, and that is correct and universal use of masks. And our current plan is face masks are not required, but are encouraged for staff and students who have not been vaccinated. I don't know if encouraged is the right word. I borrowed this language from someone else. Maybe it would sound better if it was are not required, or maybe face masks are voluntary for staff and students who have not been vaccinated. I don't want to have wording in there that is like that we're pushing kids into wearing masks. What I want is that for parents and kids to feel comfortable with their kids in school. And if that means you need to put them, they feel like they need to have a mask on, then they need to have a mask on. But by the same token, at this current situation, I haven't had anybody yet tell me that we should be, that kids need to be in masks. So I do have a clause in there, or we have a clause in there that says masks may be required temporarily within a specific building if COVID cases rise. And none of that is going to be decided just by myself or anybody at our school, but talking with our local health department, because they really are the ones that have the leverage to put these kind of things into effect. If they put a mask mandate on us and we don't comply, they could have the sheriff come out and give us a citation for not following that sort of a mandate. I don't anticipate that happening, but that's kind of an area where if something happens, that we're at least protected and have that option. I'm sure that might be an area where people disagree. Modifying facilities to allow for physical distancing. I think we're still going to try. Last year we were shooting for 6 feet. I think we're going to try for 3 feet as much as possible. Not having any excessive furniture yet to this point. We may ask people, we may limit the number of visitors and volunteers if we have an incidence, and if we do have a rise in cases, that we go back to the 6 feet. At this point, we're not looking at limiting anybody, but that could be an option. And there is no risk dial, so we don't really have anything to refer to other than our weekly or bi-weekly meetings with the health department, who are giving us, how many cases there are in our area each week, but we're not getting anything as far as colors like we were. Now, I did see that Lancaster County did put themselves in the yellow, which is the first one in the state that I've heard of, because of the new Delta variant. Hand washing and respiratory etiquette. We're going to keep cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities, including improving ventilation. We're going to continue to do what we have been doing, really emphasizing cleaning, talking about hand washing, proper way of, if kids choose to wear a mask, how they should wear those masks, that sort of thing. So we're going to continue like we did at the end of the year, no change there. Contact tracing is another thing that has to be addressed in our plan. And right now, as far as I know, the health departments are not doing any contact tracing or quarantines. But if they would go back to, because of a case increase, if that goes back, then we're going to work with them as best we can. Right now, our health procedures are students and staff who are sick must stay home, and they must be fever-free for 24 hours before coming back to school. That's kind of been our policy anyway prior to the pandemic. So that's what we're going to look at following. Students and staff will be encouraged to test for COVID if they've been exposed or they exhibit symptoms. So we're not going to force anybody, but we want to recommend to people that they get a COVID test if they've been exposed and haven't had a vaccination. And we will continue to excuse kids for COVID-related absences if someone comes down with it. Diagnostic and screening testing. Again, we're just going to encourage kids who've got symptoms to stay home and to get tested. And if the levels rise, we're going to talk with the health department to determine if we should have a screening at our school. We talked about it last year and decided not to do it at the school site, but that is always an option that we want to keep open. We don't want to close any doors. Efforts to provide vaccinations to school, community, and other area that has to be addressed. And our plan just says that we have already provided opportunities for staff on site. We're going to give information to parents and students regarding when they could receive vaccinations if those vaccination clinics are available. And then we're going to continue to monitor information regarding vaccinations and give updates as needed. Accommodations for students with disabilities. We're going to follow their IEPs and their 504s, which may include accommodations that apply to health and safety of students relative to COVID-19, which may include remote learning. So if there's a student on an IEP and because of a health concern, it would be best for them if they did remote learning. That's something that we will consider. And of course, those students, if there was to be any remote learning, and at this point we're not planning on it unless they do have a disability, that they would be prioritized for that. Coordination with state and local health officials. We're going to continue to work with Elkhorn-Logan Valley Health Department. And it's a requirement that we look at this plan every 6 months. So that should put us about January board meeting to look at it the second time or to revisit it. Continuity of services. Obviously, our goal is to provide in-person learning to all kids and address the academic, social, emotional, and mental health of our students. We'll return to a regular school year schedule that follows our normal curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional learning. If COVID cases rise significantly and we're required to close school and go to remote learning, every effort will be made to provide these services virtually through Zoom, just like we were able to do when we closed for COVID last year. And all special ed services will be provided to be students, and we will also make arrangements to make sure that the meals are provided to kids. Symptom screening. Oops, went too fast. I'm going to reiterate that students and staff who are sick must stay home, and Bancroft-Rosalie school policy defines a fever as 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think we've made any changes in that. Students and staff must be fever-free for 24 hours before returning. And again, we may go back to temperature checks as people enter the building if cases increase. If we get to a level of, let's say, orange or high yellow, we might have to go back to checking temperatures, but we're not going to do that at the beginning of the year. Food service. Breakfast and lunch will continue to be served in the cafeteria with the additional entree choices. In the elementary, we are going to try and, if they're, obviously K6 kids can't get the vaccine, so we're going to try and space them out 3 feet, which might mean limiting them to, or should mean limiting them to 6 at a table instead of the normal 12 that we can get. With the high school kids, since they've all, and junior high, since 12 and above has had the opportunity to be vaccinated, I don't feel like we have to do the 3 feet spacing with them. But we will have, we will provide space for kids who want that additional spacing. But if, you know, two high school seniors want to sit by each other while they're having lunch and they've both been vaccinated or had the opportunity, then I don't see a problem with that. But again, if people feel differently, you know, voice your opinion. Water fountains will be reopened. However, the water bottles and refilling stations are available and encouraged to utilize those throughout the day. Right now, here's our timeline. The draft plan was sent out to the administrators. We looked it over, made changes. It was published, the plan was published on the website. Today is I guess that's the 28th. I didn't change that, but I'll have to. The Return to School Committee met via Zoom to discuss plans. I'm hoping there are suggestions for improvement or concern from people. If you have those suggestions or concerns, and then we'll put the revised plan up on our website and have it for the board to look at August 9th. Then August 10th, we'll post the final board approved policy. One thing that I did not talk about, because I don't know the answer, is transportation. And I've talked to different administrators today and no one knows the answer. But right now, the any people in public transportation are supposed to be in masks. And our school buses considered public transportation. Administrators have told me that their school attorneys have said, yes, it's public transportation and therefore everyone down there must have a mask. Other places I've gotten the legal opinion that that's not, quote, public transportation, and they don't have to wear masks. So I don't have an answer for that one. I'm hoping that some lawyer will tell me. I really hope that it's not having masks, because it just doesn't make sense to me to put kids in a mask on a school bus, and then when they're together in a classroom, they don't have to. I don't think we can explain that to people well enough that they understand, because I know in public transportation that people aren't wearing masks. I've seen it. So it's going to be really hard to defend that decision. And last, I want to say that we are committed to providing students and staff with a safe in-person learning environment. So I'm going to stop the share, and I am going to attempt to do a breakout rooms, and we've got 21 people on. So I'm going to put you in, can we do three groups of 7? I think that will be okay. So I'm going to go 3 breakout rooms, and it's going to just assign people automatically. So you get what the computer decides. And I think we'll come back in 10 minutes, and then people can either say we need more time or give me your suggestions and comments. So here we go. So they're in breakout rooms for 3 more minutes, and I'll close those down. We kind of went through the plan already, so they're just putting together suggestions or comments. Well, at one point we had 20 people on, and now we are down to 14. So I hope everybody's back from the breakout rooms. So now we're up to 18. There we go. Can people unmute themselves?
Yep.
Yep.
Or do I need to do that? Okay. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Good, because I didn't know if I wasn't allowing people in or not. So breakout room 1, did you have any comments or suggestions? I don't know who was in that one. Does somebody have a spokesperson?
I was in there. I don't know that we had a lot of comments, Dr. Cerny. I guess one question I did have, though, not so much with the breakout room, but with Mrs. Nodelman, was about labs. We might not be 3 feet apart. Is that, do you want them to wear masks, or how do we handle that?
I think you're okay. Mr. Elsesser, would you agree? I mean, when we're at the 7-12 level, those kids should all have had the opportunity, whether their parents chose to or not, to get them vaccinated. So I feel like that people have made the decision on how they're going to respond to it, and we're just going to have to do the best we can to educate the kids. And you can't do labs 3 feet apart, and I don't feel like that. You know, I feel like our mask policy needs to be consistent. So we're not going to say in science lab you got to wear a mask and nowhere else. So I feel like you're going to be okay. That whole 3 feet thing, I think, is just mainly focused on the elementary. And in the lunchroom with the elementary kids, so that we're keep trying to keep them apart as much as we can.
Okay, what about having elementary art? I've constantly got kids all around me and I'm always constantly helping me and they can't get vaccinated. So what
Yeah.
about a situation like that?
Yeah, they're gonna have to sit. Yeah, and what I think we can do is have their classroom para go with them if they have a classroom para, so that could help with the management part of it. So they can be there to just make sure the kids are in their seats, and you might have to stagger them like the lunchroom, where some are on one side of the table and some are on the other. So you can still get 3 or 4 kids probably to a table. But I think Paris, Paris support for those larger groups like that. But I am writing that down. Anything else? Were you okay with the wording on that? Do you think we need to drop the encouraged and say voluntary? I don't know. The only reason I thought encouraged was because I am always worried that somebody is going to drag me to court and have me testify for 2 days because something happened and they're suing us. And, if we say, hey, we encourage you, what I feel like is we're encouraging the people who are seriously concerned about health issues. We encourage you to have masks on, but it's voluntary. I mean, that's the message. I don't know if that's what we're saying and what in that plan or not. Number 2, folks, breakout room 2. What did you have?
Our group was pretty, didn't have a whole lot of comments about the plan itself. I guess we didn't bring up the word encourage, but I think that's okay to have encouraged in there. Still implied that it's voluntary. I guess one concern that I brought up, and I think this is just us as administrators addressing with the staff, is if students or if parents are wanting their kids to wear masks in school, that we make sure that it's where they feel comfortable being students that wear masks in school and they're not being ridiculed for being the students that are wearing masks and that sort of thing. So I guess that's my only concern with having it optional for certain students. You know how social, constructs, kids are gonna make fun of them or whatever. So just preventing that.
Yeah, I don't know how we do it, but I think you're right. Maybe I got to wear a mask once in a while so people see that it's okay to do it. I don't know. But I agree with you that if I know there's going to be some kids because their parents have already told me. And how do we make it so that those kids don't feel left out or picked on or any of those kind of things, or singled out because of it? So, yeah. Anything else from that group? What about group 3?
This is Linda, and I was in group 3 with Corey and Melinda and Rachel. And the science and art has already been discussed. We were wondering, are you going to ask for 3 feet distance between the desks in the high school? We kind of talked about that. I don't know what Northeast is going to ask for my classes, but I know Mindy said she's got a class that will have like 19, and she can get 19 desks in her science room if they're 3 feet apart.
My only concern, or the reason why I asked that, is because like last year I did use the lab table as desks for 6 of them, and it's not a huge deal. That worked out fine, but my rule is you can't have food or drink or anything in the lab. And then it was really hard to tell those kids, we can't take your water or your Gatorade or whatever back there when that's your desk. But then other pieces, then I either had to have, okay, everybody, let's not have drinks or water because not everybody could. It's just, if they're not back there, it's just a little bit easier to be fair about how everything is laid out, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that I can reasonably get 19 desks in my room. I think that's because the earth science, the 7th grade, is the only class that I have one class altogether. And I think Gina and Kim told me there was 19 total in there. And I know I have 12 desks now, and I'm pretty sure that I can get 7 more in there.
Yeah.
And be reasonably, far apart.
I think,
So
last year we were trying to shoot for 6 feet.
Yeah.
So I think 3 feet, we could set the desks up that way, but I don't anticipate that kids are going to be 3 feet apart the whole time. That's just not going to happen. But if we can accommodate them, well, Mr. Elsesser, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, honestly, so the 3 feet is not necessarily between desks. It's from like face to face. When you're sitting in those desks, you're almost 3 feet apart when they're butted up together anyway. So if you have just a little bit of a gap, they're going to be basically 3 feet apart. So I don't think that'll be an issue at all for you.
Yeah, and like I said, at lunch, I think they're going to sit by their friends, and I think we let them. And if they sit close together, they do, and if they don't, they don't. I don't know. Like I said, my main concern is the elementary kids, and that we make sure that we have that spacing for them.
Yeah.
And not necessarily I'm not quite so worried about the high school, because I think a lot of those have already made their decision on vaccinations.
Right. The other thing that group 3 liked is we would like to see the cleaning schedule of the desks in between classes and things like that continue, just so that it kind of is a routine that is going to continue from last year. And we do feel that it's going to help keep the students healthier, just getting rid of the germs in between people.
Okay.
And then the other thing I had written down was I'm going to have to really monitor those symptoms of those unvaccinated students in that age group of that elementary. If those teachers are seeing, any signs or symptoms, to let me know right away so we can, get them checked out. Because that age group, they're really projecting that that's going to be a high, what do I want to say, where they can pass it from one person to the next is going to be the elementary age this year.
You think the cases are going to be pretty high in that?
Yeah. Even what I seen on the news tonight, they're projecting that the elementary grades, because they cannot get vaccinated, that they really feel that is going to be a high risk area.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's likely.
And that's where we're going to have to ask the parents not to send their kids to school and stuff if they're not feeling good. It's not going to be acceptable to send them to school and then have the nurse check you out and stuff. We need to make sure that they stay home if they're not well.
Yeah. Anything?
But otherwise, that was everything that group 3 had discussed.
Okay. Good. Like I said, the cleaning was the main focus, and some folks, when we did the survey, and I think a lot of people probably felt like, I know we didn't have a lot of parents on tonight, and I think a lot of people felt like they likely gave their opinion in the survey. So I'll try to put that together before the board meeting and just say we had this many, this was their priority, and this many comments about this. I do know that there was a few people said, let's keep the elementary groups smaller. And the only thing that constricts splitting anything is the number of rooms we have. So we just don't have a lot of extra rooms. So we are splitting the big class of 29, obviously. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of groups that are going to be larger than let's say 20 or 22.
Dr.
So,
Cerny, are you going to ask that we do assigned seating this year again?
that's a good question. I hadn't thought about that, but I think that makes sense.
Okay. And then my other question that Rachel had brought up, are we going to have the elementary enter through the elementary doors again this year and the high school enter through the high school doors, or can everybody just come in the front doors?
My thought was going back to normal procedure and just having the kids all come in together.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's how we ended the year, and I think it was fine.
Yeah, and that's how we've been doing summer school. I mean, obviously there's not that many kids, but it's just better use of our staff and being able to supervise kids if we kind of keep them all in one place. If we bring them in and then put them in the big gym before school, and we can do a better job of monitoring them than having them go in their rooms at 8 and eat breakfast in their rooms and that sort of thing. I think we'll just, our food service is going to go back to normal, so the kids can come in, they'll eat in the cafeteria, and nobody's eating in their rooms anymore. Kind of try to go back to normal that way, and just, try to put those little what I want to call preventative measures in place, like keeping them a little bit further apart in the elementary, try to keep them 3 feet apart, and make sure that they wash their hands and, take care of that and make sure that everything's disinfected. And I think that's what we can do for right now, unless the governor and the health department change. The governor has said again that there's no mask mandates, and I don't see him changing his opinion. And the health departments are kind of, I think, kind of setting back and seeing how things are going to go before they make any recommendations. So, any other last words of anybody before we sit down and maybe adjust some of the things to make some of these things clear?
This is Linda again.
Yep.
If any high school students or the age 12 and up that have had their COVID vaccines, if those parents could provide the school with a copy of that, I can get it in the computer and keep their vaccinations up to date. And that way, if anything big does happen in our area and we need to know exactly who is vaccinated, I can run a report for that, and we'll know exactly how many students we have vaccinated.
Okay. I can sure mention that to parents at the back to school night, or I could probably send something out beforehand. And
Okay.
as a reminder of back to school night, that if you had any vaccinations, bring those records and they can let you know. Okay. Anything else?
Jenny, do you have something?
I wouldn't really worry about like the elementary kids being more susceptible to COVID just because they didn't get vaccinated. They weren't susceptible like before, like they were like very low risk before a vaccine was even out. So just because they don't have a vaccine now that vaccines are out, it doesn't make sense that they're more likely to get it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm worried about is what the elementary parents think and how we can, because we're going to have people on all sides of this thing. Some of them are simply appalled that we're not requiring the elementary kids to wear masks, and others are on the other side saying, why are you even thinking about it? And so what I want to do is to put us in a situation where we are doing the best we can to make people feel comfortable with sending their kids to school. And so I think if we can, separate them out a little bit and, really focus on the cleanliness part of it, I think people will feel a little bit better, even though I can't guarantee that that's going to do anything better or worse. But I just want to alleviate any kind of, because I don't have elementary kids myself, obviously. So, I don't know how, as a parent, I would feel about sending a kid to school when the CDC says everybody should have a mask and the governor says nobody should have a mask. You know, well, how do people make an educated decision? So I think if we can just say, these are the things we're doing and we feel comfortable with it, your kid's going to be okay. I myself, I'm not quite so worried, but I want to, you know, make people feel comfortable. But yeah, I agree. Thank you, Jenny. Anybody else? Last comments? Because I know it's getting to be until late.
Dr. Cerny,
Yep.
this is Terry Buck. I'm at a swimming party for my grandson, so I've been having my picture
Okay.
off, but that's why I've just been kind of listening. Will computers not be in the den then for elementary, or what's that look like?
The den has changed places, so we've got
Okay.
a separate plan for those elementary computers. We think we got a good place for them.
Okay. And did I understand that it's personal choice then on if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated on if you're wearing a mask? Just a minute, Renner.
Right.
Okay.
It mask is voluntary. Yes.
Okay. Jim lost one of his officers today for COVID.
Really?
He was not vaccinated, but we have a dispatcher who's on ventilator and she was vaccinated. So it is the toss up. I mean, there's no guarantees either way. So.
Oh, wow. That's.
So yeah, it's been kind of a rough day here, but
and
like I said,
in Byrd County, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So, but like they're both in Omaha, they were both taken to Omaha, but like I said, the other one, she had both of her vaccinations, so, and she's in the same boat, so.
Oh boy.
So.
I don't like to hear that, Terry.
Yeah, so like I said, it is a toss up. It is more of a personal choice because I mean, I'm sitting here trying to decide what's even best for me.
Right.
My husband was vaccinated, but it may not be in my best interest due to some medical things. So.
Right. I completely understand. And you know, we can make this plan in 2 weeks. The whole situation could be completely different. And so, gosh, wow, I didn't realize it was hitting that close. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else? Mrs. H, is that you talking? You're on mute. You want me to unmute you?
Okay. You won't like the fact that there's cases going through the Pender Hospital also then.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm supposed to meet again next week with the health department, and maybe they'll have some different opinions on things. But I am going to say that I feel like that mask mandates are not going to be quite so. Requiring kids to wear masks is not going to go over near as well as it did last year. I thought our people were fantastic about compliance with that, but I feel like there's going to be a lot more pushback this time. And so I want it to come from somebody besides me. I want the health department or the state to come out and say, you guys got to do this because, you know, I think there's going to be pressure on our school board members to not require them of everybody. I really do. So if there's more people saying this or telling us you really need to do this for the safety of your kids, that's the only way that it's going to fly.
You know, and I don't know if I'm on the fence, you know, I'm in that upper age group that they worry about, but I think it comes to a point where it's here, it's always going to be here. And we're just, you know, it's going to be something that comes through like the flu does every year. So I think we have done as a country and as as a school district as much as we can do to prevent it and to slow it down. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know that making everybody wear a mask and do that all over again is going to make any difference.
What I do like is to be able to have the authority to say, you know what, this is hitting hard here. Can we all put a mask on for a week and see if we can, you know, write it out and maybe go and look at it in that way rather than look at it as it's either going to be everybody all year or nobody ever. But just, you know, use some common sense and say, if the flu is bad and we've got, you know, 45 kids out, maybe the kids who are coming to school, maybe we just try to mitigate it for a little bit and wear a mask for a while. I don't know. I will see what the school board says on that too, because obviously they're going to want to weigh in on it. But I think we always got to keep our options open because, you know, I don't want kids coming to school and getting sick either. So, yeah, I wish there's a lot easier answers than the ones we were giving, but appreciate everybody's contribution tonight. Again, without this plan and without these conversations, the federal government will withhold our $460,000 of federal money that they're giving us to make up for all the learning loss that's happened in the last year and a half. So appreciate your contributions and your input, and have a nice rest of your summer.